The only peace I find is a future that never happened. One where I, Paul Atreides, was never born.
Dune Awakening got a benchmark and a character creation tool drop on Steam the other day, and today we're going to run it on an NVIDIA RTX 4090 and AMD Ryzen 9800X 3D at 4K, and on the next video we'll look at the AMD RX 7900 XTX as well. Now, Dune Awakening is an Unreal Engine 5 MMO survival and base building game based on the Dune universe, with PvP and a lot of other interesting mechanics. The whole Unreal Engine 5 for an MMO had me a bit worried, but the benchmark put my mind at ease a little. I did also take a look at the character creator briefly, and it's quite thorough. You can choose from quite a few different presets they have, or you can create your own or customize gender, skin color, all that stuff, or you can change your jaw size, eye tilt. It's quite thorough. But I didn't want to spend too much time into that. I'll do that when the game comes out. Let's focus on the benchmark. We're going to do 3 benchmark runs. The first one will be native 4K with DLAA. The second will look at DLSS Quality. The third will be DLSS Performance. For the graphical settings, we've maxed everything out, and this is an Unreal Engine 5 game as well. And let's begin with DLAA. The benchmark itself is split into 3 parts. The first one is player built bases, which is what you're looking at right now. So the game is going to have player built bases where I think players have to cooperate and gather resources and then build their own base, which then can also be attacked by other factions like PvP battles. At least from what I know. I don't know a ton about the game, but it sounds pretty cool. But now if we look at the performance, we're actually getting some pretty decent FPS. Just keep in mind this is an Unreal Engine 5 game that, by the looks of it, is using Lumen GI and reflections, I believe. And this is with DLAA as well, so that is native 4K. As far as the actual performance, yes, it is demanding as you would expect from an Unreal Engine 5 game, but we're not having any stuttering issues. Now this is the second part of the benchmark, and it's called Hakiro Village or something like that. So this sounds like a developer built main town gathering area. So like a capital, I guess you could call it, of the game. The performance seems to be pretty similar to what the player basis part was, but this seems to be quite a bit going on. Again, you see some pretty good global illumination and decent reflections, although a bit noisy at times, but I'd say it actually looks pretty good. And again, we're not having any stuttering issues or anything like that. Now the next part, the third part, it's very short and it's a lot less demanding. I think it's supposed to show flight in the desert, and it also shows a giant sandworm, which is really cool. Take a look. And as you can see here, we don't really have any stuttering issues or anything like that. We're getting a lot more FPS than we were in the previous 2. So yeah, that actually looks really cool with the sandworm poking out of the sand. Really cool stuff. Really curious to check out the game when it comes out. And then in the end of the benchmark round, we're met with the results page, and you can see for yourself. You have the player built bases, which we had 63 average, 56 minimum. Hardcore Village, 67 average, 55 minimum, and then Sandworm Emerges, 91 and 70 minimum. And then there's the rest of the settings on the screen. So everything was maxed out at native 4K with DLAAs. So pretty good. 4090 is able to maintain 60 FPS at native 4K with DLAA. But this is Unreal Engine 5, guys. And Unreal Engine 5 was designed with upscaling in mind, and that's what we're going to try is DLSS Quality. And as you can see, in this same area, previously we were getting only around 60 to 65 FPS, and we've now jumped all the way up to close to 100 FPS. That is a massive gain in FPS. So yeah, it definitely helps a lot, it seems, and the game still looks really, really good. Now, if there's any interest, when the game comes out, we can make some image quality comparisons and see how DLSS Quality fares to native resolution. Maybe take a look at the new DLSS transformer, take a look at FSR, We are going to be looking at FSR, by the way, on the next video when we look at the 7900 XTX. But yeah, as you can see here, 4090 does a really good job with DLSS quality, all settings cranked to the max. And next is the Village. And the last part, the sandworm emerges. And here we were able to hit over 140 FPS. And keep in mind, guys, that the game does support DLSS and FSR frame generation, by the way, as well. I'm not going to check it out here because I don't think there's really a point. We're already getting great FPS. But as you can see here, we gain a massive uplift to our FPS going from native 4K to DLSS, as you can see for yourself. And for our last run, we're going to do the same thing, but with DLSS Performance this time. With DLSS Performance, we didn't see as big of an increase to FPS. It was maybe around 15 to 20 more FPS or so. I mean, we're still getting very good frame rate, but again, we're also dropped down to DLSS Performance from DLSS Quality. So I can definitely notice a bit more flicker. Image is a bit less stable than it was previously. I think DLSS Quality worked really good. And again, keep in mind that we do also have frame generation on top. If you had a CPU that couldn't keep up maybe, and you were CPU bound, turning on frame generation would definitely help with that. Back in Harco Village, we're seeing some pretty good performance here, around 130 FPS or so, sometimes going even higher depending on what's on the screen. But again, I can most definitely see the image is a little bit less stable when it comes to, you know, the finer detail that can be a bit flickery, which for me personally, I find that to be a bit distracting. So I don't think I would use DLSS Performance unless I really had to. And this could be a good case of checking out what DLSS transformer model would look like, because the transformer model is can be much better, a lot more stable than the old CNN model, especially with DLSS Performance. And back into the sandworm emerges, and now we're hitting close to 150 FPS. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. And looking at the results, well, as you can see for yourself, we're doing really well, averaging 120 plus FPS. So yeah, for a 4K 120 Hz display like mine, it's pretty good. Well, guys, that's going to be it for this benchmark video. Next, we'll look at the RX 7900 XTX, and we'll do a more in-depth look at the game when it comes out. Peace out.